The hardest games all feature some signature moment that will continue to haunt players for years to come. Picture running headlong into a wall in the turbo tunnel in Battletoads, losing yet another turtle to the seaweed in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the "You died" message in Dark Souls. These are some fairly common fears, but for many children of the 80s, there is one sound effect that will still cause us to break out into a cold sweat all these years later. Sorry to bring back the memories, friends. Today, we're talking about Rick Dangerous. It's easy to see who the inspiration for Rick Dangerous was. Carefully treading the line between homage and theft, Rick is a grizzled British agent and explorer whose plane crashes in the Amazon jungle whilst searching for the lost Gulu tribe. From the very first moments of the game, you know exactly what you are in for. By the end of the game, you will have travelled from the Amazon through to the pyramids in Egypt, all the way to a secret Nazi missile base to prevent an attack on London. Once more, the indie vibes shine through. The only things missing are the bullwhip and Sean Connery. In terms of gameplay, Rick Dangerous is a fairly standard 2D platformer. Rick moves relatively slowly and has a high jump arc, so if you're a fan of 80s platformers, you'll feel right at home. This game does not feature scrolling. Instead, each stage is split up into individual screens, not unlike old school platformers such as Prince of Persia. This also has the added effect of making screens feel like movie moments, with the difficult sections almost acting as set pieces. This isn't a game that feels particularly fluid to play, especially if you're used to the quicker, smoother platformers from the 16-bit era. This certainly doesn't mean that the game controls badly though, far from it. Controls are basically pixel perfect, so once you get used to the movement, you'll have no one to blame when you die but yourself. And you will die. A lot. Rick Dangerous is a very unforgiving game. There's a lot of memorization required on the part of the player, as you'll often need to complete a series of actions quite quickly and accurately to make it through a particular screen. There are also several screens where it's next to impossible not to die until you have memorized exactly what will happen once you attempt it. It's old school platformer design at its most demanding, and it was too much for many players even in its own era. It's likely to be even more frustrating for players today who are used to somewhat more forgiving platform games, with smoother character movement and more lenient checkpoint systems. In this way, Rick Dangerous does show its age. Ironically, it also makes it feel somewhat fresh, in comparison to other platformers on the market today. To get the footage for this video, I played through it again for the first time in ages, and found myself having to access a very different set of skills than those required by most of the other games in my library. Even though the game looks comedic on the outside, it belies the tremendous sense of urgency and danger that soaks each screen. I won't lie, I almost broke the desk in half in the process. In return though, the sense of accomplishment I felt every time I pushed through a particularly troublesome section was palpable. If you're looking to truly test your platforming skills, Rick Dangerous will provide a worthy challenge. Interestingly enough, Core Design would go on to create another game about raiding tombs in a few years' time, to staggering success. Having played through Rick Dangerous again, you can definitely recognise the DNA in Lara's first adventure in particular. You could imagine that some of the challenges and set pieces in that title could almost have started as demonstrations from an early attempt at a 3D Rick Dangerous. If you're a fan of the Lara Croft games, you owe it to yourself to try Core's original foray into tomb raiding.